It's a pretty big slate. I don't have a lot of action on today's card, though, to be honest. I had one early bet, which I don't want to really talk about because we took the under 225 in Phoenix and Boston. That is all the way down to 220 now. We've been in this position a few times this season, which normally I'm super excited about. However, none of them have panned out particularly well for me. I think in games where I've had at least 10% CLV or higher, I am now 2-7 this year, which is not great. Look, the good news is it's got to flip eventually, right? So if we keep getting these positions, we should start seeing these cash. But I do still like the under in Boston, Phoenix. Cam Johnson now out for the Suns, I think hurts them a lot. He does so much for them offensively with the spacing that he provides, and the pressure that forces in on the defense and helps unlock things as well for Ayton in and around the rim. Both these teams play very slow, and I touched on the Celtics in our homework review a couple of episodes ago, where when Marcus Smart's out of the lineup, the pace of the Boston Celtics goes down drastically. The spacing goes down drastically. It's a lot more ISO ball as well. The number of assists, the percentage of assists goes down by almost 5% as well. So I think that this is going to be one of those games where it's a lot of half-court basketball, and if the Celtics do get into that habit of playing a lot of ISO ball, the Phoenix Suns defense can absolutely shut that down in a pretty big way. Obviously, they're going to want to put their best foot forward after what happened to them in Phoenix when they hosted the Celtics a couple months back now and lost by, was it 40 points? Seemingly was 50, 60 points at one point. But I'm also on the Washington Wizards, -3.5 today at home to Portland, another team that I've sort of championed about on this show. The Wizards fully healthy. That offense is really, really scary and underrated. The Blazers defense is not good. No Yusuf Nurkic today. Gary Payton also popping up as questionable now with illness. I think that matters a lot for their rotations just because they are so thin as it is. So I think the Wizards' role here at home, I don't think that the Blazers' defense has enough to slow them down. I think Washington's defense stacks up pretty well against this Portland offense, where a lot of what they do is on the perimeter. Washington top 5 in both three-point frequency allowed and then three-point efficiency allowed as well. So they do a really good job of trying to funnel teams onto the inside there. Those are my two looks for today, Chris. Any disagreement with those two? And then let us know what it is that you've got as your best bets for today.
Nah, Josh, no disagreement at all. The one thing the one reason why I didn't quite get there with the Wizards, even though they are one of the better teams, we always talk about fading teams off a road trip, Josh, especially in that first game back home. But the Wizards actually do really well in that spot, so I couldn't talk you off of them. The Blazers are one of those teams that's really difficult to cap, Josh. They had the 7 or 8 game road trip, homestand, and they did terrible in that spot. It's lack of defense in some games. It's stagnant offense in other games. And then some reason they go on the road to Memphis and they find a way to win the game without Nurkic and without Jeremy Grant. I can't understand teams like that, Josh. So I know both of these teams also have a game tomorrow, with the Wizards having a triple revenge game against the Brooklyn Nets tomorrow. So the Wizards do well also. I wanted to look at the under in that game, Josh. The Wizards do well, though, coming back home. I think there's something like 6-0 when they're traveling from road to home. And they also are super rested. They do extremely well as far as flying over their total when they're rested as well. I want to say there's something like 6-0 to the over, playing on 2 days rest or more as well. So I couldn't talk you off of that one at all, Josh. I stayed on the sidelines in that one. The under in that Phoenix and Boston game, I honestly wished I could have got the 225, Josh. By the time I capped it, it already dropped down to, like you said, like minus, under 220.5, I think is what it was at last time I checked. And I absolutely love it, man. I think you're getting two teams, coming in, from opposite directions. Phoenix, last game at home, they absolutely got smashed by the Atlanta Hawks the other day. They lost that game by 30 points, 30 plus points. And then, Boston, of course, just won a game by 30 plus points as well. So two teams, hot and cold. I do think it's something that, the spread's actually moving down, and I wish I could have got the plus 10, because I do think that Phoenix comes back and they show a lot of effort on the defensive end. When you give up 130 points and you're, trying to be a playoff team and you've made the playoffs recently, I do think that you come out and you play, really good defense. One thing I was looking at, Josh, was since 2020, road dogs of 9 points or more coming off a 30-point home loss that aren't playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. They're actually 6-1 to the under, 8-3 to the under since 2017. So that's some support for you. But like I said, by the time I was able to do my homework on this game, it was a tad bit too late. I didn't want to touch the 220 with the Celtics, being able to score 50 points in a quarter if the other team, kind of lets their guard down. It is a revenge game for Phoenix as well. But, even in that game, they had Devin Booker. So it's a difficult game for me to cap. Definitely a difficult game for me to cap, Josh. I do love your under, 225. Historically, trends will show that when teams score as many points as the Boston Celtics did in the last game, they don't score as many in the following game, and those games tend to go under. And the same thing for the Phoenix Suns. When you give up that many points, typically, you come out and you lay it on the line defensively as well. As far as best bets for me, Josh, I didn't really like the card a lot today. I know we have a lot of games, but it's not a lot to really like at all, man.
I agree, man. Yep.
I think one of my really strong looks, and to be completely transparent, I haven't placed a bet in the NBA today, Josh. I have not. But one of my strong looks would I'd be looking at the the 76ers traveling to San Antonio today. I know that the line is 10, and I don't think that the market quite adjusted to Trey Jones being ruled out in that game.
Yeah,
he's a big playmaker for them, and him being, he was listed as doubtful. Jeremy Sohan's also been ruled out. And to be added with Devin Vassell, and to be added with Romeo Langford. So that's a lot of offense that these guys are going to be missing. I think looking at the Spurs team total under, I think it was 112.5, is a really solid look. We know that the Pacers we know that the 76ers don't play with a lot of pace, even though their games do fly over the total on the road. I think that they come out here and try to establish themselves earlier in the season. I think it was the first week of the season. The Spurs did come into Philadelphia and beat the 76ers. So, I think a team total for the Spurs to go under, or, just taking the Spurs minus the 10 would probably be my best bet if I had to give one out for the show, Josh. But I don't have either one of those in my pocket. Little more work I'm going to do, and then I'll end up placing those. I've also not placed a lot of bets, Josh, before. I know you're a big CLV guy. I actually like to wait until, 2 minutes before the game so I can make sure everybody's actually in. And because we've been manipulated all season, Josh, with the injury reports, man. It's atrocious. The CLV is something I've never seen before, Josh. Like, you should absolutely be, 7-2 versus being 2-7 with the CLV that you're doing, especially trying to get your work done early. And it's something that we've never seen before, Josh. It's really
wild,
weird.
man.
Yeah, Spurs team total under, Josh. I think it's 112.5 is what I saw. Books are anticipating this game to be about 122 to 112, and I think the full game goes under, which is why we see the total drop from 235 down to 233.5. And I also think the Spurs team total goes under as well.
I love that look, Spurs team total under. I might still get involved in that one as well. I've been looking at that game specifically. And like you said, when you take out Trey Jones, and Jeremy Sohan has been so good for them this past fortnight. I don't know if people have paid attention, but the offense he's been providing, like his development in such a short period of time as a jump shooter is really, really impressive for a rookie. I'm a huge Sohan fan. I love what he's doing with his game in San Antonio and the developments, like I said, he's made in such a short period of time. I think he's got a super bright future in this league. But yeah, with Trey Jones out as well, it just makes a huge difference. And looking at lineups where there's no Trey Jones, no Jeremy Sohan specifically in the lineup, the offense for San Antonio are 111.4 points per 100 possessions. That is not good. That is a 25th percentile in the league. And there is not a single one of their 5-man rotation lineups that possesses a positive net rating either in those situations. So it could be a really tough night for them. If you want to build off of narratives as well, I think James Harden's probably a little pissed off that he wasn't in the All-Star game. So, I think there's points to be made, like you said, the fact that as well that Philadelphia did let San Antonio sort of stroll in and put on a bit of a beatdown in Philadelphia in a spot where everything lined up for Philly that game. It was such a favorable spot for them in the middle of a trip for the Spurs. So I love that look. Team total under for San Antonio, or some sort of angle on Philly for me for sure.